and welcome to Freshly Pressed for the 5th of September 2023. If my antennas, my personal antennas are feeling right, I guess it is quite wet in parts of Lagos already, and who knows, it might be a national downpour today. But we are dry and warm right here in the studio, just the right temperature for us to get into the newspapers for this morning. As I say, good morning to Chibuzor Nwaezeapu as he joins me solo for the paper breakdown this morning.
Good morning, Omatseye. Good morning, Lagos.
And Lagos and where you're following from, you can also be part of the conversation by sending us WhatsApp messages to 0809 444 0981 will be a very nice place to send those thoughts to the headlines reactions as we get them broken down by Chibuzor this morning. You can also race down to YouTube by you can watch what's happening out here as we break down the papers to see what it looks like in the studio on youtube.com/ smooth981 Lagos. That's where it is. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa. Let's get into it this morning, Chibuzo, to keep us warm. Let's get into this one from the Daily Trust newspaper where it screams federal government begs labor leaders to shelve strike. Well, that's what it says.
Okay, so the labor unions, like led by the TUC and the NLC, have are supposed to go as expected to go on a planned strike today, warning strike today and tomorrow, and that's what the new minister for labor and productivity, I believe, is trying to address. So Simon Lalongo, so obviously for most of us that remember, used to be a former governor, so he's done one of those that have done the transition. So what basically the minister is saying is 2 points that stand out for me. First is that one, they haven't received the formal notice of the strike, which is what is legally expected from the unions. And two, the other thing point he raises out is that hey, we just resumed. I just resumed basically as a minister, and the minister's just resumed. So we have not had enough time to be able to look at these issues and be able to come roll out those plans as my president or my executive has mentioned to you. So give us more time. Don't go on strike. So that's the basic message going out to labor. Please don't go on strike. Give us more time. We are committed to resolving these issues. We are committed to rolling out plans, but we need time to do this. Now, I can look at it from both sides of the plate. Obviously, the NLCTUC have basically not hidden their plans for this entire period with regards to the palliatives and the issues around the subsidy removal. So I think everybody, you know, Smooth is aware, everybody's aware, every other press are aware of what the plans were. So the minister should have been aware even before resuming. Let's uh, um on one, I can't blame the NLC for going along with plans or the labor unions for going along with plans that they had planned previously, because the government chose to delay their delay setting up the ministers and just the ministers come along are just coming into place now. So that's on one side. So that would be the labor's position. Hey, you knew what was happening. You took all the time to bring out these guys to do the work, and the other guys in the ministries and the PAM secretaries and it had business had continued while you are trying to get your act together. That's on one side. The government's continuing position is that hey, we are just trying to get our feet on the ground. We cannot solve these issues overnight. Give us time and more time. What I've always asked for, and what I always talk about is that there needs to be a meeting at the point. There needs to be some engagement. Yes, the NLC, whatever labor unions have come out with their plans or their points, there needs to be continuous engagement. The minister on resumption should have known that the first thing on his plate, the most pressing issue on his plate, were these engagements with the labor unions. It's not new. So I expected that as he resumed on the plate, he should have reached out to these guys and said, you know what, this is your plans that I can see. Can you confirm them? Can we meet at the point? Can we discuss this? I'm just coming, give me some time. And you have a plan on the ground. We don't have to get to the date, to try and resolve these issues. So for me, there obviously, yeah, Labour will keep pushing for Labour's positions. The ministers and the government will have to defend their own positions, but we can be a bit more efficient with our time and our resources and our peace, because right now we do not need to be less productive as this country. We're in a position where we're not having enough revenue, and large of it is tied to our ability to produce and produce and generate that revenue.
5 days of the week, 2 days taken out already. Who knows if somewhere along the line we have a public holiday somewhere, which I don't see now, but whoever can tell, it might, so that goes 3 days or it's gone. But what my problem is right now, looking at the story where the minister, from what you've broken down, it says that the minister said, "Look, see, we're not aware." So I'm just looking at it from that point of view. So employees now get to employ their, so it's now employees are informing their employers of their intention to go on strike using the press. That's what it smacks me as right now.
So for me, I always say I have my issues with labor and labor unions. See, labor unions do get some subvention or some dues from their members, and so expect, like every other entity, the same thing I would expect for the House of Reps and Representatives, that they should run as professional entities. Now, if there are laws that govern how you can go in industrial actions, follow it to the latter, so that at least you come out unscathed if they need to go. If the government, for instance, chooses to seek legal recourse, and that's what I expect for a professional body to do. Yes, everybody knows that there's a plan strike, but if there's a formal requirement, and like and I would, if there is a formal requirement, follow the formal processes, walk through that process. We are so quick to jump over processes in Nigeria. That's one of our major challenges. We do not know how to live by processes. So when we put them on the ground, it's a process, and I mean just not processes in the offices or processes of doing business, even our laws. We don't like to follow them. We want to jump over them. And it's if you look at it, it's one of the root causes of where we are today as a country.
Underlining this in also what you talked about is that after this 2 day one, if after a warning comes the sledgehammer itself, because I see that from the story there would probably be a planned total shutdown in 21 days.
So, you know, obviously there is this, and there is obviously the plan shutdown. Uh, Labour have been clear about what they want. If their requirements are realistic, if their requirements will solve the problem or move the dice or would help Nigeria move forward, I do not agree on all their points. I disagree with a lot more of them, and I do believe they should have engaged even before the elections happened. When the candidates were prancing around trying to get their support, they should have engaged to how would you deal with this issue that you all of you say you want to remove subsidy. How? But now obviously government knows what Labour wants, or I'm assuming that, and I know they've been engaging. They've had these committees that have been working since the previous warning strike or the protest that they had previously. By now, the committee should have would have had a clear look at what the demands are, and I would have taken their points on demands. Are these doable? Are these not doable? What are your counter demands? So that's the work of the committee, and we expect them that at least they know that there's a timeline for 21 days. They've reached this particular milestone or timeline. The next one is in 21 days. So we're expecting and hoping that that committee is doing its work, and they will get to some resolution before that time. What that resolution is, we are not clear yet, but we're hoping that they will get to that.
All right, that takes us to our next story, which is somewhat related, and it's coming from the Nation newspaper, where the federal government said to have meets TUC, sets 2 week deadline on wage allocation. That's what the story says here. So I'd like you to please merge these two stories, the first one together, and see why are we seeing the TUC here now, not the NLC.
Okay, so here we are. In fact, okay, this is a follow up of even the first one. So the TUC in the second story is actually saying they are not going to be part of the one strike, but they are also asking the major thing that they are pushing forward at this point is that they're asking for the wage allocation, and they set a 2 week deadline that the wage allocation to federal workers in this instance, and they're giving a 2 week notice. What they're saying is that the government had actually set a 2 week. I think the government itself had actually set a 2 week timeline on the wage award, tax exemptions, allowances to public sector workers to cushion the pains and anguish they are going through as a result of the subsidy removal. That's according to the TUC. Now, so what the TUC is waiting for is that this rollout of these plans, they want this wage allocations to be rolled out. My concern with this is that at the end of the day, how many, I do understand that, and it's sadly so, that especially a lot of the states of the country are driven by the civil service or either federal or state workers. Well, in this instance, there's a lot of focus on the allocation of wages to federal workers. Yes, one or two states have come out and said we're offering this to our workers. We are offering some days, to work remotely. How remote, we don't know. We're going to do this to our pensioners and all that. What we would have expected is some kind of clear cut plans that cuts across all the sectors that are controlled by government, at least both the state and the public. I know that the president has reached out and appealed to the private sector, private sector employers to try and meet their workers at some point and help soothe the impact. But that's completely out of the control of the federal government. Um, Obviously, every entity needs, and it's while we want to be dishing out salaries and wages, we also need to dish out what value and productivity is coming out of those entities. So if I was the government, if I'm going to be handing over wages and addition, we also need to come to a meeting point where what exactly are these entities supposed to deliver, and we need to get to the point where they actually delivering value across board. So yeah, the TUC has taken their position. They breached their point from the NLC, and they put it in front of the minister. And obviously, I don't envy Mr. Lalong. He has a lot of things on the split at the moment, and he has clear timelines to deal with them.
Let's hope the last minister, the former Anambra governor, left him left some notes on how to navigate the stormy waters of labor.
Well, he might probably have some pointers for him to follow. I don't want to be sarcastic about how the former minister fared, but yeah, there's always something to learn, negative or positive.
All right, so that helps us drift into the next paper that's coming from the Vanguard newspaper. Before we go for the red light stop quickly, and this one is coming in from the Vanguard, and it says, presidential poll, Obi Atiku to no fate as tribunal delivers verdict on Wednesday. So today is Tuesday. That means my sense of geography in the day of the week is correct. That will be tomorrow.
So tomorrow is the day that a lot of Nigerians have been waiting for, and we've been told that it's going to be televised. So I'm sure a lot of people will be dialing into their TV stations and trying to, or whichever media they need to follow the announcement by the the petition court to see how this turns out. So obviously we had our elections. We have a president who was sworn in on May 29th, and we have some of the contenders at that election who have questioned the outcome of the election and who went to the election petition court to try and seek redress.
Yeah.
So the court has come out and said, hey, we've finished all our deliberations, we've taken everything into place, and tomorrow we're going to give Nigerians the answers to the questions that they've been asking.
Can I ask? See, it's keep blinking, so we just have to pause here. We'll come back, and you still spend more time on that story. So
fantastic.
When we come back, it's still freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. Please keep the thoughts coming on to the 0809 444 0981 WhatsApp messages only. I see a few messages already lined up for us to pick up when we come back. So stay with us. I still got Chibuzor Nwaezeapu here. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa.
Are you looking for a reliable way to grow your money? Let me tell you about ARM. ARM is one of the largest non-bank financial institutions with over 29 years of expertise in money management and wealth creation. That's almost 3 decades. ARM is all about ensuring your financial goals are met with ease, no matter who you are. Now, whether it's growing your money in safe, well-managed investments for important goals like school fees, personal development, vacations, rent, buying a property, or preparing for the future, ARM has got you covered. We all know there are a lot of apps out there promising to grow your money, but ARM has everything you need to go from where you are to where you need to be. Start your wealth creation journey today by downloading the ARM One app from the Google Play Store or iOS Store. There are great options for everyone. You even start with as low as 1,000 naira, just 1,000 naira. For more information, visit arm.com.ng or call 01-271-5002. That's 01-271-5002. ARM. Let's face tomorrow together.
Smooth 98.4.
This is the Smooth Breakfast Show.
And we're back. And we didn't go for too long, did we? So we're back now, picking up on the stories once again. Now that's looking at that story earlier on from the Daily Trust. You know that's from which of the paper? Vanguard, right? Let's see this paper coming in here. That's where we looked at the Vanguard. A presidential poll: Obi Atiku to know fate as tribunal delivers verdict. And you were just going to begin to repeat a part to leave the details for us. But as you do that, also have in mind that there's been a release by the Department of State Services informing Nigerians that there is a ploy, a plot by some disgruntled element, some unpatriotic people to cause chaos somewhere along the line tomorrow. So just marry all of this together.
Okay, so um, obviously, a lot of Nigerians are waiting with bated breath for the announcements tomorrow. The Justice Haruna Samami five-member panel is had said on August 1st that they were going after okaying the cases for judgments. All the parties had closed the parties had closed their briefs, and they had gotten to the point where we've gotten to the point where the results will be announced tomorrow. So on both parties, both of the major candidates that challenged the result, that's Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and Mr. Peter Obi, have if you look at their both positions, there's a line of commonality, and a lot of it was with the transmission of the electoral results and how the agreed process was not followed through. And what they said, what both of them stood on, was that this wasn't a glitch, this wasn't a technical glitch or technology working against people. This was deliberate. This was a deliberate ploy to sabotage the results. This was a deliberate ploy to manipulate the results. That was their position during their briefs. I think also Alhaji Atiku also went further to say that even the current president, who was the third candidate in the election, that's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was not qualified to even run for the election. So those are positions of those in summary are the positions of both candidates. Now, obviously, we all waiting. The truth is that every Nigerian is waiting, and it's for two things. One, we want to ensure that we want at least to see that the process that we've set out to resolve some of these issues go through its natural course, and we are able to get some resolution at the end of the day. Obviously, we can't control how every individual is going to take the resolution, but at least we have gone through a process where that goes from the start to the finish and comes out with a resolution, and that's how processes should work. Now, looking at that and tying it to what Omatseye had shared just right previously about the state security coming out and saying people are going to take advantage. Obviously, not everybody is going to be happy with the results. Let's not with whatever comes out of it. But whichever way the announcement goes, not every party will be happy with it. How they deal with it is obviously a different discussion. Now, if there's some plan or don't employ, um, not to sound sarcastic, but that's why agencies like the state security or department for whatever the state security services and all the law enforcement agencies exist. I would actually like a lot of these notifications, a lot of this information to be coming from the police, who are the primarily in charge of security, at least at this level. There's, there's we used to know the DSS or state security as the secret service and things that we would not come to in general plea. A lot of the notifications that are coming to them, in my own opinion, and this is me speaking as the armchair analyst today, is that those should have been going to the other security agencies to put their plans in place to try and curtail these things. That is the reason why we have everybody employed in security services. That is the reason why those operations exist. We are not going to be able to control the behavior of individuals, but at least we are going to be able to prevent them from the negative outcome, or we're going to try to prevent them from negative outcome that wants to come across. So that's what I'm just hoping that they do their jobs, whichever intentions anybody has, it's for them to take me. But yes, Nigerians are waiting. We want to see how this goes through. It also allows this government, whichever way it happens, whatever government is left at the end of the day, to be able to proceed with some legitimacy and be able to face the myriad of problems and issues that are in front of the country at the moment.
All right, this takes us to the message is already waiting for our attention, and this one comes in here with Tayo saying, they will always ask for time until another minister comes in and says we need more time. Nothing gets done. That's reacting to the NLC story where government is appealing to labor to shelve the 2-day warning strike. Dan Okuda from Igondo comes up with this message and says, Good morning, the crew. I see this strike as quite unnecessary. Labor should learn to use their options in resolving labor disputes. Subjecting Nigerians to needless suffering is most unfortunate. That's coming from Barrister Dan Okuda from Igondo. And next, I see your message coming in. This one is from King Joe from Surulere. Government is asking for time to stabilize, but government didn't ask for time before saying subsidy is gone. This government seems not to be seems what is well they use the kind of I can't go ahead and put it across, but then your message subject I just made sure that it's gotten across. Yinka Bolu comes up with a long one and he says, is it a crime for NLC to demand a meeting with the federal government? Rather, they declared a strike and expected to be called for a meeting. And it goes on, what is he saying? He says, for a meeting, can things be done differently? And how come Joe Ajaero didn't show up at the meeting with the federal government while TUC's Osifo did? I always admire Osifo for his logic, and I hope the NLC understands how they look to some people who think they are aligned with certain political party that is dissatisfied with the current state of affairs in the country. That is why the NLC should be reasonable in their interactions with the federal government and not demand an absurd wage of 200,000 when some states are struggling to pay 30,000 naira. It shows that the NLC leadership lacks, goes on. Well, what the former senator would say is not common, or just want to make common sense. No, it's good time we get these notifications from the DSS because they seem to have the capacity to instill fear in the minds of some children of anger and petition. There is the problem of see finish with the police since NSAS. A group of people can be thinking they have monopoly of violence, and it goes on. That's reacting to the story there now.
I just want to make a quick comment, and I've spent a lot of time talking about process today and how the jumping of processes have gotten us to where we are today. Even previously when we had our changes of regime, a lot of the things where we got impatient with how the processes were running, I wanted to jump over it.
Yes.
The primary responsibility for security in Nigeria today is the police. If the police is unable to do that, either because of how they are seen or their current setup, what I expect governments to do is actually to spend time to actually change the police, or to reform the police, or to strengthen the police. We are not seeing enough of that. So when we say why we're saying that we should see less of the the security service, or the whatever in DSS or whatever format the name is today in public, it's not because we are saying they are unimportant, but they are not, in my understanding, that is not their primary response. Let the people who are supposed to do the work do the work. We should not, while fear, because you use a very interesting word, put the fear in them. While fear is a tool, fear should not be the tool for dealing with your citizens. There's a reason why they are acting the way they are acting. We should stop. There's this mindset where we see people as being less, but you forget to look at there's a root cause analysis.
All right, so
can we start off that way?
Can we pick up some more speeds with this paper waiting for you now, Chibuzor? The Guardian newspaper says Tinubu promises to digitize public service for efficiency and probity. Take us into this in just probably a minute.
So fantastic. So the president was meeting with the vice president, the global vice president of Oracle, Andres Garcia Arroyo in Abuja. And the president basically welcomed his commitment to Nigeria's civil service reform and data management. He emphasized the need for greater knowledge transfer through establishment of academies, training institutions in the country, and also he also cited their successes in automation of the Lagos payroll system to enhance accountability and basically make them more efficient, Lagos payroll more efficient. So what are we talking about digitalization? We're saying the government basically wants, generally for purpose of this discussion, the entire idea of digitalization is moving your processes from assist, which are largely manual, and trying to make them a bit more automated, a bit more digital, allowing you to use tools like your mobile devices, your internet to be able to access those things. It also helps to define the processes a bit more clearly, so you're not dependent on human intervention or human-driven processes. So that's just a summary top level of what this is. And Oracle obviously a world leader in that. What I also like to see is obviously that the government also is talking through there is an ecosystem locally also where a lot of people are delivering such value and services, and it will also be useful for the government also to talk to a lot of them. I guess they will do that obviously through the ministers that have come in, because that value also can be, a lot of that value can be delivered locally and at lower costs.
All right, that takes us.
Saves us forex also.
We move on now to grab a copy of the Punch newspaper with this headline. Niger State workers reject governor's palliative plans. That's what they're saying. This what they don't want to be part of the committee, or they don't like the content of the palliative. What is it about, Chibuzor?
Okay, so the workers in Niger State are not happy. Basically, they're not happy with what the government is promising to as its own palliatives. Organized labor had proposed a 50,000 flash rate for workers in the state while they had a meeting with the governor across board. They wanted the 50,000 naira and across board. And I think they also wanted 30,000 minimum wage for retirees in the states and LGAs. Now, the government obviously is offering something different from that, and they are not happy with what he's doing. Yes, they are saying that hey, the government they do like the fact that the government is engaging, and he's actually offering them something. But what they're asking for basically is that see, this is what we have on the table. This is what we want. Give us what we want. Don't give us what you want. Basically, that's the summary of the story. Yeah. So I just hope they keep engaging and get to some middle ground with the governor.
All right, talk us through this next story here, where we see that be our last story. It talks about tax. Tax revenue rises 17% to 3.48 trillion naira in the first half of 2023. That's coming from the Vanguard newspaper. A minute to do this, and the messages we go.
Okay, so basically what we have seen is a jump of tax revenues in the first half of the year. So basically company income tax, which is obviously collected from the companies, has grown by 17% to 3.48 trillion from 2.97 in the corresponding period last year. So we're looking at the half year to half year comparisons. Now that's coming from the MBS. It's also the there was also a VAT increase from year on year by 25%. Basically, yeah, on the point of payments, on both of those two payments, it looks like we're doing better than we were doing last year.
Yes.
How this is positive for the government because it means that they have at least a little more to spend than they previously did, at least to plan and spend as they previously did. And hopefully, like the president has insisted, will also reduce their needs to actually go borrowing from foreign entities. So this is good. I know the president has spoken a lot about trying to increase what we get internally, especially from taxes and taxation. And he set up the panel to try and streamline the taxes collected across board. And we hope that by the time that panel is done with their work and done with their engagements, and I'm assuming and hoping that engagement is not just going to be at the federal level, it's going to be across all states.
Yes.
That we will get a better, more clearer tax regime. And obviously, pointing to the previous story, also it's a more digitized tax regime. So every individual in Nigeria, you don't need to have to walk into some shop or office to do it. You can actually sit down at your mobile device, do this thing, and pay your contribution to the country based on what you're doing.
All right, I see Chidi's message. Good morning, Nomas. Chibuzor, it's laughable when the DSS threaten live fire and brimstone when the masses are agitated. You see this. You will never see this when the DSS huff and puff when there is attack on innocent Nigerians. We're all watching, and that's Chibuzor from Ikotun. Next message, Shegun says, the moment NLC called for their first strike immediately after the announcement of fuel subsidy removal on May 29, I knew this present NLC was gone fully political. They have been hypocritical because their own political party also promised to immediately remove fuel subsidy, and Chibuzor alluded to that also. This next one, good morning from Austin. Why is it that most of the politicians travel out of the country this time and tomorrow is pregnant? Austin from Satellite, that's what he says.
It's summer.
It's summer. We're heading into winter already.
You're right.
All right, so Idimapuza from Sula says, it is the common man that would suffer NLC strike. Government will certainly use divide and rule system on their ranks and make the strike useless. May God help Nigeria. Idimapuza sent in that one. Yinka Bolu says, rejig the police. Agreed. But can that be done between today and tomorrow? We need stopgap solution. Thank you.
We've been stopgapping for a long time.
And final message here. Good morning, crew. This is this fellows the fact of APC spokesperson should should know that the elections are over, and therefore talking down on the citizens and lampooning of labor every opportunity is only distasteful, and it goes on and on and on. Thank you, Ken from Lekki. Message gotten. That's a wrap on the show this morning, and the size of press for this morning. Chief, thank you